bad news. It depends on what side of this conversation you're on. Court is off today. So apparently there is a jurist that is not feeling well, which is ironic because when I got on the train this morning, somebody threw up, apparently. So foreshadows in any regard. There's a jurist not doing well. They handled a little bit of court business in the interim today. They handled two different things. I'm going to talk about that in 1 minute. But also, I didn't tell y'all what happened yesterday. So let's get into what happened yesterday real quick. Let's have this conversation. And then we'll talk about exactly what they had to handle in court today, even though it doesn't necessarily pertain to what happened yesterday. But it does have I guess all of these things pertain to each other, has something to do with one another. They all correlate. So we'll have that conversation real quick. So I'll tell you I guess I'll go over the little bit of what happened today, and then I'll go over what happened yesterday. I think that's probably the best way to do it. So today, apparently, they had two different businesses of court that they had to handle. After they decided that they were going to tell us that there wasn't going to be any court today, there was two different businesses of court they had to handle. The first one is the one I'm going to talk about, and I guess they both, like I said, correlate, has to do with each other. And that's basically, there were some text messages that were deemed admissible from D-Rock. For everybody that don't know, D-Rock is an individual. D-Rock is an individual who was purportedly acquiring the drugs that was then being used by Diddy and his associates. The defense has decided that what they were going to do was they obviously, just so we can be clear, they didn't want these text messages admitted, so they had basically objected to this evidence. The judge has deemed it, as far as I can tell, admissible. I'm going to go over what it was real quick. So allegedly there is D-Rock, and he was the between somebody called One Stop, and One Stop has already been outed as being a drug supplier. So just so we can be clear, we're not talking about a drug dealer, we're talking about a drug supplier. I want to say something real quick. So the other day I was playing music over there, and some of the content creators went absolutely crazy that be out here and got mad at me, and they still pissed off at me about it now. They curse me out every time they see me. They try to get everybody to hate me. But that's a whole street with cars that drive by it and has music all the time. Why aren't they chasing the damn cars down and harassing them? I want to know now. In any regard, TikTok fam, I don't know what to tell you. In any regard, so D-Rock is the individual that was the go-between, allegedly, of One Stop, who was supposed to be the drug supplier, and D-Rock was actually the drug dealer. The reason in which why I'm using this particular vernacular to describe the two is so we don't get it confused. D-Rock had to go to the supplier of the drugs to acquire them, to then allegedly go to the supplier of the drugs to acquire them, to then bring it back to Diddy and his compatriots in order for them to be able to then get high and use these drugs, allegedly. So just so we can be clear, we weren't here when Cassie testified, but apparently she has already testified that the guy One Stop was an individual in which was the one that D-Rock was getting the drugs from. Allegedly, this is what not even allegedly, they said this in the court. That's what they said. They said this in court, so it's not an allegedly. So he was, but D-Rock is still the alleged drug dealer as far as I'm concerned, because they didn't say anything too much. And also, the defense was objecting to the use of this particular text messages because they're saying that there's no certainty that the person that D-Rock was corresponding with is the first stop guy. They said that allegedly the prosecution don't have anyone that's going to get on the stand now to basically verify these things, but the prosecution is saying that they already had people on the stand that have verified it, and I think Cassie was already called out as one of those individuals. Remember, we weren't here during Cassie's testimony, so right now I'm going off of what they're saying in the court, and that's what I'm bringing to you. With that being said, the defense objected to the text, obviously. They said there's no way to tell who the person is without just simply using, the contact list or whatever the case might be. They're saying that the drugs were obtained by D-Rock from one stop in order to be given the combs. They also had like terminology for these drugs, such as like football, yellow football, and things and such. And I want to say this because I found this weird also. Earlier, when Jane Doe was, not Jane Doe, when I'm gonna go back to the testimony that happened the other day. I haven't told you about this yet, obviously, because we didn't have one yesterday because it was raining out here, so we wasn't doing nothing in the rains. So apparently they had the forensic accountant, basically the individual that went and coordinated all of the data that they had, the text messages and the phone messages that the prosecution was going to use, and they coordinated it. You can wave, Mom. I did. Ah, I love it. So they had the person that was coordinating all of the data that they were going to use, the prosecution, obviously. This person works for the prosecution, obviously, in one of the AG's offices. And basically what they had is that they had this information, and in this information, they had things like buying bottles of champagne or something like that, or bottles of liquor, not even champagne, but bottles of liquor, and it was like $700, and then they was like spending $3,200 on alcohol. So I thought that was weird myself. I was like, that doesn't necessarily line up. But there was no testimony that was given other than that. So they let that sit at where it was. So now that we're hearing that some of this testimony in which they're trying to get rid of, or some of this information that they don't want to be admitted, is basically lends to that idea, I believe. So let's just talk about what happened yesterday real quick. So yesterday they had the forensic accountant get on that basically coordinated all of the data that was used. Now, just so we could be fair, the data that the prosecution used was not all of the text messages. There were a ton of text messages that the forensic accountant didn't actually have access to, that was not given to them, that basically changes some of the narrative in which was given by the prosecution and actually gives an out for Diddy, and showing that some of the things that they were saying that was basically making Diddy look bad wasn't necessarily the full picture. So you get all of that in the cross examination. So just real quick. Okay, I'm on the right day. I got like the days mixed up, whatever the reason is. I thought yesterday was Wednesday or some shit. I don't know. I be up like at 5:30 in the morning some days, and other days I be up at like 2:30 in the morning. And so I don't be knowing what day it is all the time. I don't sleep much. In any regard. So yesterday what they determined is, and what we have to understand is that this is a RICO case. So even though we're going to have a lot of conversation about things outside of us just saying RICO type of situations, everything is involved in a RICO. So basically what they need to do is they need to be able to figure out how they're going to be able to draw the lines and connect the dots to different crimes that was committed, and how Sean Combs, they're accusing Sean Combs of basically being the head of this illegal organization, because that's basically what a RICO is. You have an organization that's committing committing illegal acts, and you can't get the head guy because everybody else is actually committing the crimes. So unless the people are basically saying he told me to do it, just flat out, there's no way to actually get them. So the reason why RICOs was actually created, the racketeering enforcement was created in this manner, is so that even when you have a boss that's the head of the thing and nobody wants to tell on them, you could connect the dots and say, well, this is the person that was pushing the buttons. Now, with that being said, Sean Combs, and this is how they're attaching him to the drugs and a lot of the other activities that they're basically trying to say is something that shouldn't have been done. This is how they're connecting them. There was a American Express card that was his American Express card, just so we can be clear. And so he paid for a lot of the things that the prosecution is now saying were illegal acts, as far as with the sex trafficking. And just so we can be clear, so people can understand what sex trafficking is, that isn't just having prostitutes, that isn't just having, like, it's different. Like, basically, whenever you take somebody from one state to another state in order to have sex, you're breaking this thing called the Mann Act. That is illegal. Unless you are married to a person, you are not allowed to go from one state to another state and have sex with them. Period. Full stop. Just so we can be clear. If that's your girlfriend, it's illegal. If that's your boyfriend, it's illegal. It's just illegal. That's not something that you can do. And this needs to be understood, because what he was doing is that Cassie was flying from Las Vegas, sometimes Las Vegas, but Cassie was flying from Los Angeles to New York City and to Miami, as far as Jane Doe also, 2 different places in America. And while she was doing this flying around, she was also going to these hotels where they were then engaging in sex. So if Diddy was paying for the hotels, if Diddy was paying for the flight trips, what they're basically saying is that he was sex trafficking. And in addition to that, what he was also doing is, another accusation that they're making about him is, he was also supplying the money that was paying the people that were having sex with Cassie and with Jane Doe. So in that regard, if these things are proven in a court of law, he's 100, if these things are proven, he would be guilty at that point of sex trafficking, because all of these things are illegal. I want to be clear on this. I get what people are going to say. You know, you have your preferences, you have your belief system, you have what you think is right and what you think is wrong. I get it absolutely, completely. But if this is something that he did, and this is the action he was taking, that would be sex trafficking. Right now, this is what they're trying to prove in the court of law, and this is why that's the conversation that they're having, and this is why that's what they're talking about. So basically, just so we can be clear, Diddy had an American Express card, which he was using to pay for the flights, which he was using to pay for, I got another thing to say, hold on, which he was using to pay for the flights, which he was using to pay for different activities, and then they're trying to say that that was his personal American Express. He was spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. What's up, my brother? How you doing? All right. We live?
Yes, sir. What's going on?
Okay, so they canceled court today. What do you think about that?
I got some compassion because the juror said you don't want a sick juror on there, right?
That's a fact.
You want them to be focused and prepared to do their job, right?
That's a fact.
So, you know, I just wish they feel better. I don't know which juror it is, whether it's a female or male, but whoever it is, I hope they feel better and they get back to the job and get this case moving.
Okay, so today they actually had a little bit of stuff that they was covering in court about D-Rock and about the one-stop character. What do you think about how the judge is saying that he's going to allow for that to be admissible? Do you think it should be inadmissible because of the terms that the defense is saying, that they can't actually coordinate decisively who the individual is?
Yes, it should be admissible based on the fact that if you can't identify who no one is, and you're bringing it before a jury and you're trying to identify it, it's an oxymoron. You can't. I mean, how can you identify something that can't be identified?
That makes sense.
Right. There's no clear, decisive information there. It just everything is ambiguous. So I think that, you know, the defense is making a great decision. And I think what they said was accurate. But, you know, the judge has the last word. So that's what it is.
That's a fact. Another thing, real quick. So also, in addition to that, they have what they're trying to say is that they have the text messages where they're talking about footballs and where they're talking about all these other things, and the prosecution is trying to say that they're talking about drugs specifically. What is your opinion on that?
They're talking about football. How you gonna tell me I ain't talking about drugs if I'm talking about a game? I'm talking about a football game, a basketball game, tennis, whatever. You can't sit there and just say, you know what? That means this. That means we can never have a conversation. Because if the conversation is up to you deciphering what he's not a drug dealer, right? So I don't get it. He's not a drug dealer, so why can't he talk about sports? Why, if he talk about sports, it has to be drugs. It has to be something illegal, right? You get on the phone, you call your brother, you talk to your brother about, you see the game the other day? Well, how many points they got? That's like that. How can they say, you know, you're up against a RICO or some type of drug charge, you should really talk about a game. They can't prove that's what they were talking about. And I just think that right there is just crazy. Another thing that's crazy to me is the objections. If we're in the court of law, right, and you don't want to put nobody innocent in jail, right?
That's a fact.
You shouldn't want to. So therefore, if you don't want to put an innocent person in jail and it's not a scam, why would, if a person is telling you the truth and then the defense is getting the person to tell the truth and the person about to tell the truth, the government object? They don't want them to say the truth. Why not? Let the truth go.
Great point.
Let it go, right? Why would you object the truth?
I mean, I can't argue that. That sounds like logic to me. One more thing before you go, because I know that you're probably a little busy right now. I know you're definitely busy. You're the man. So, with that being said, so they also, just so we can be clear, they have the just in my head. Give me 2 seconds. So they also are trying to say that you mind?
He going to his notes.
Thank you. As you can see, it's pretty.
Yeah.
So,
Detail.
yes, sir. So, just so we could be clear, the other day they had the person on stand, and they were testifying, and the prosecution was not giving the forensic accountant all of the text messages. They were only giving them
Pieces.
a few pieces of the text messages. What do you think about that?
Again, I can't give you a piece of a book, right? You never get the full story. So in order for you to get the full story, you got to read the whole book, right?
Absolutely.
You can't give somebody a synopsis.
That's a fact.
As you gave him a synopsis in court. Give me the whole book.
They
It's
just
like
gave
watching
them crib notes.
Yeah, you're gonna watch a commercial. You're gonna watch a trailer for a movie, or you pay to watch a trailer for a movie. You pay to watch the movie.
Facts.
All right, so that's what they're giving you. They're giving you pieces. Let me see how it goes from here, because it floats. Because things can be taken out of context if you read it. If I skip this line and read this, then I skip that line and read this, it's gonna read differently. But if I read it and let it flow, it's gonna come. Now you get the full picture, and that's all the defense was saying. Let the whole text play. Why you don't want to play the whole text?
I agree with you on that.
Again, why you don't want to play the whole text? That means you're trying. To me, it's like you're trying to
Lie by omission?
Yeah, and it's like you're really trying to push the narrative that this man is guilty when the evidence is like straightforward. Let it play. The defense don't have a problem with it. Why would you object the truth? I just don't. I never understand it. It's never going to sit well with me. If something's the truth, if somebody doesn't understand, and they're saying something, why would you stop them from finishing? Just to win. This is about a win. This is about a game. This is a game. It's just about winning here. It's not. This man is fighting for his life.
This is a fact.
He's fighting for his children's life. He's fighting with
a fact.
And you're playing games with him. Like, you're playing games with this man's life. If this was domestic violence, we'd be talking differently right now. If we're talking drug addiction, we'd be talking different right now.
I gotta agree.
But we're talking RICO, that is not there. We're talking sex trafficking, that is not there. And we're talking about the Mann Act. You know what I'm saying? I can name about 5 people that was charged with the Mann Act in history. You follow me?
That's pretty. You guys making great points.
You know what I'm saying? So again, I don't want your viewers, the people watching this, to run off with these other YouTubers, bloggers, whoever they are, because they're doing stuff for clicks, right? I respect guys like him,
Jack Cross.
right? Jack Ross, right here, right? That actually do the homework, take notes, and actually report what's going on inside the courtroom. Not come outside and not, because they only allow 14 journalists in the courtroom. So all these bloggers are not in the courtroom. You hear me? So when they come out here, they make up these stories and talking all grandiose. Oh, this happened and this happened, which is not true. And then you guys are getting caught up in the clickbait. So if you're going to go to a real YouTuber, a journalist, or Instagram, a media person, go to somebody that's credible, because what you're getting from these people are stuff that because they're trying to get their clicks up, and they're getting monetized. They're being paid for that. Don't get caught up in the scam, man. Love.
Yeah, it's always a blessing.
Free Diddy. It's free Puff.
Boom. Let's go. Have a blessed day. Bam. Don't know what to tell you. Let's get back to what we talking about. And that's how you give an interview. For people that don't know how to give an interview, that's how you give an interview. Copy? A lot of people don't know how to give interviews. I didn't frame any of my questions. I just asked questions and allowed for him to answer. Gave information and asked him his perspective. Didn't frame anything. With that being said, we're going to get back to the American Express charges and how they're trying to really create this RICO for you to understand what's going on. So Sean Combs has some American Express charges, and we're talking about Cassie right now, just so we can be clear. I'm not going to go too far into it, but basically this is from 2009. So a couple of things happened with this 2009 thing. the first thing I want to say is there was a situation that had happened inside of. There was a situation that had happened inside of a hotel, allegedly. Just so we could say allegedly. The prosecution wasn't able to acquire the paperwork from the hotel because apparently the hotel doesn't still keep the records, I'm guessing, from 2009. So they weren't able to acquire it from, I believe, the London, New York City hotel. Also, with that being said, I don't think it's in any of these hotels' best interest to give the prosecution anything because, you know, one of the things that allow for these hotels to be able to be where they're at is because they're, when I say be where they're at, I mean the esteem, is because of them not, you know, doing things like cooperating and there's being anonymity or there being, you know, a feeling of security in when you go inside of these hotels, whatever you're doing. There's a feeling of security that they're not going to just call the police on you. If the police show up, there's at least a fight in order to be able to get whatever they might want, just so we can be clear. So it's not in any hotel, especially a high-end hotel, best interest to just give up information without a fight. Like, you got to fight these guys. In that regard, you can't really expect for the hotel to still have their records from 2009, with all due respect. You really just can't expect that. So, allegedly, in 2009, Jules, Theodore, and Cassie, there was a situation that happened in the London NYC hotel on August 26th, and from August 26th to August 29th, those charges were put on Sean Combs's American Express card, and then those charges, the American Express card, was paid off by bad boy bank accounts. So this is how they're trying to create this whole entire RICO by saying that not only was this not just a Sean Combs thing, but this was also a bad boy thing. This was an organizational situation that happened. It wasn't something that just only happened from. So they're really going hard. I'm not saying what side is right, what side is wrong. As always, I'm just giving you the information. You do what you want with the information. My channel isn't for the people who love Diddy. My channel isn't for the people who hate Diddy. We're not for that. Our channel is just to give you the information, and you know, sometimes I'll let you know my perspective, but it's to give you the information and for you to be able to then break down and decide what you think about it, just so we can be clear. And if anyone was to come get an interview from me, I'm not trying to do no gotcha questions. I'm not trying to catch nobody off guard or anything. I just really just want to have real conversations with individuals so we can really understand what a person is thinking and, you know, their perspective on it. Because their perspective, like when we just spoke to Lucci, that was Lucci, their perspective on it might be a little bit different than mine, and it might make me think a little bit differently towards some of the things that I'm hearing inside of the courtroom, just so we can be clear. So basically, Jules and Cassie had communicated through text on August 25th to coordinate a trip. Now this goes back to the thing that I was trying to explain to you about when they're talking about somebody going over state lines in order to have sex. If they were trying to coordinate this trip,
I'm doing it right now. Yeah.
when they're trying to coordinate this trip, one of the things, like I said before, it is 100% illegal to go across state lines and have sex with anyone that you're not married to. That's just the law. It's called the Mann Act, just so we can be clear. So we don't know definitively whether any of these people went across state lines to have sex unless we actually saw the video footage and we could look at the hotel room and then see the hotel room and say that this hotel room exists in this area or exists in that area. So that's how we know. Right. Have a blessed day. I don't got nothing to say. She bad. Anyway, so what they're trying to say also is, just so we could be clear, is that Sean Combs not only paid for the American Airlines ticket of Jules, but he also paid for the hotel room that these acts were committed in, and he also paid, allegedly, for Cassie to come to New York City, because at this time, if I believe correctly, Cassie was living in LA. So they're trying to catch him on everything. Once again, we're going to see what happens in court. Also, like I spoke with Lucci, there was text messages that the prosecution did not give to the that the process. I love it when people walk past and they're giving them positive energy. I love it. There's never no, if you're walking past me and you're giving positive energy, I promise, I love it. It's never, I no hate. All right? Zero hate. I love it. With that being said, so the text messages, I'm gonna try to speak a little low. I gotta bring my mic so I can speak a little lower, so I'm not in other people's lives by accident. You know, I speak loud, project. Sean Combs, they said, was using bank accounts to pay for his personal American Express cards, which he was then using in order to pay for some of these things that they're deeming as illegal activities. And this is how my notes be looking. That's why he looked at my notes. He was impressed. This is how my notes be looking. Y'all already know how I give it up. That's why he just looked at my notes and he was impressed. Next week, I'm probably going to have a couple of more colors. I need a couple of more colors in order to be able to do a little bit more and probably get a book with thinner line. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So they said December 8th, Cassie was possibly out of the country. Basically, there was a situation that had to happen where Diddy is being accused of putting hands on Cassie. I believe this happened in 2015 or 16, somewhere around that time. So there's a situation that happened where Diddy is being accused of putting hands on Cassie. And then there was a lot of text messages that went back and forth. Well, not really back and forth, that went from Diddy to Cassie. A lot of telephones, calls that went from Diddy to Cassie, where she wasn't responding back to him. And she also wasn't returning the messages or calling him. So that's what that whole December 8th, 2015, Cassie was possibly out of the country. And that's what they were basically saying. Anyway, we're going to move on. The defense shows messages. I went all the way to the defense. Let's stay with the prosecution for 1 minute, and then I go over the defense. So also, court goes over text that had happened when Diddy and Cassie had broke up. That's basically in 2015, and I'm telling y'all when the situation had happened. Combs reportedly called Cassie. She wouldn't answer. It was over a few days, just so we can be clear. It wasn't over a short period of time. It was actually over a few days. Cassie had said that she should have sued him when she was talking to somebody. Like I said before, it was a situation that happened where Cassie was physically attacked, apparently, allegedly, and she's saying that she should have sued. She also had got mad at Diddy when this had happened because she's saying that she had got wounds on her face and everything, and she had like a big event to go to, and so, you know, she had to show up at this event looking like she just went a couple of rounds with Mike Tyson. She did not agree with this. The Mike Tyson comment is my words. But basically, she had a black eye. Her face was bruised. She was blaming Combs for her injuries. I just want to be clear. And then it also goes on to say that the police was called on Diddy, and the police also, there was no report of an arrest. I just want to be clear on this. Even though the police was called on Diddy, there was no report of an arrest. There was zero report of an arrest. Diddy was not arrested, as far as we can tell, for this particular incident that allegedly happened. There was no report of arrest. I just want to be clear on that, because people's going to be like, yo, Diddy did a thing. And then, but he wasn't arrested. There was no report of arrest. So we can't definitively say that what happened in this particular case. We could only go on what people are saying that happened, just so we could be clear. There was no investigation. It goes on to say that Combs had people, Combs did have people begging to have Cassie call him. Miss Karam, D-Rock, allegedly, were people who were contacting Cassie, and they were trying to get Cassie to speak with Diddy. Cassie eventually spoke with Diddy through text. Then after that, the prosecution ends. The defense gets their opportunity. During the cross-examination, the defense, because this is a special agent that was on the stand, just so we can be clear, they worked for the office that was trying Combs, just so we can be clear. So this individual that was on the stand, they work for the government. Their only job is to look at the chats and collect the data and then make a graph, basically, and make a chart that has to deal with the accurate information that they were given. The issue that came up is there was text messages and there was phone calls that were made that they weren't given. They weren't given all of the information. They said that there's hundreds, maybe thousands of pages that they had to comb through to build the charts. So basically there was so much data and so much information, they didn't get it all. They got basically a part of it, which I believe the defense is using, to say that the prosecution there's evidence out there that proves that Diddy's innocent, but they didn't use any of this evidence when they were building their chart. They just picked out the evidence that made Diddy look guilty. So I believe that that's what the prosecution is basically trying to say when they're pointing out, or when they have the witness on the stand blatantly say that no, they know that they didn't get all of the information. And the way that they proved this was they went and got text messages and things themselves. What's up, fam? Chilling. They went and got text messages themselves, and they asked the person on the stand had they seen any of these previously, and they were like, no, they never saw this. But those were text messages that had happened through that period of time that they should have been able to have to make their charts. So this kind of lends to the idea, once again, that the prosecution is not using all of the available evidence, and they are only using the evidence that's going to allow for them to be able to get the verdict that they want, a guilty verdict. So this is what they was leaning on. I personally think that they did a good job of exposing this, because me being an individual who is just an American citizen, I've done quite a few different cases. Y'all already know this. I'm going to bring up a case specifically that I want to talk about that they got a guilty verdict on. And I think that the prosecution did an excellent job of putting all of the evidence out. And that was the case involving what was the last one? The case involving dude that shot up the club. They tried to press him. He ended up shooting up the club, the rapper and his bodyguard. He ended up killing the bodyguard. I'm sorry, his name escapes me right now. He was a content creator. He's in jail right now. Y'all all love him, super black nigga. About this tall, dark skin as hell. Sheesh. Huh? Ah, shout out to homie, Taxstone. So in the Taxstone trial, one of the things that the prosecution did was they even admitted evidence that didn't help their case. So there was nothing for the defense to use to say that they're trying to frame, the testimony from the witnesses. There was nothing for the defense to use. There was nowhere for the defense to say, this is evidence that they didn't give to the jury, because they gave the jury all of the available, evidence. I don't think that that's happening in this case. And I think that by the defense proving that on the stand, I think that that was just a win for Diddy's side. When they had the forensic accountant, or whatever you want to call her, the agent, get on the stand, and they're able to show them 5, 6, 7 messages that they did not know existed, but were a thing. That looks like the prosecution is leaving out information that's important for the jury to know. I'm just saying that, fam. Like, we do real reporting over here. I get it. Everybody feel away I get it. But remember, we was the first people doing this. Don't forget that. There wasn't nobody doing this before the Tekashi trial. That was us. Just so we could be clear on this. I got a lot of babies. I got a lot of babies. I'm proud of that too. No hate. I'm proud of that too. No hate. Every time I see somebody doing what we do over here and they succeeding, it's always love. It's never hate. It's always love. I'm happy to have created a lane that other people, especially our people, are benefiting. So I'm happy. Anyway, let's get it. So there were a lot of we don't know how many texts there actually were that weren't put into the that the prosecution didn't use. We don't know how many texts, but what we do know is that all the texts that they did use was really damning to Diddy. And then the text that they started showing that I'm not going to say exonerates Diddy in any way, shape, or form, but what it did do was it kind of reshaped some of the previous conversations that they were showing us through text. Because while you're trying to tell us that this girl was scared of Diddy and didn't want nothing to do with Diddy and she hated all of these different freak-offs and everything else, and then at the same time, the same individual is busy literally begging Diddy to do more freak-offs, I don't understand how we're supposed to accept that information. When the same person, Diddy is saying, you know, he doesn't necessarily want to do one, and then they're like, no, let's do one. I don't understand how we're supposed to accept that information. In all fairness, there were text messages that said this. The defense showed those text messages. All right? Unless you just want to say the defense made them up and somehow and then brought them to court and decided they wanted to get, you know, the lawyers want to go to jail with Diddy. Unless that's what you're saying. For I'm trying not to laugh at this stupid shit. Anyway, so they show messages that the prosecution didn't put in their charts. Some of them were explicit messages where Cassie was talking about loving, literally loving to suck penis and having it touch the back of her throat. These are the messages that she was sending Diddy, while she was also saying that she wanted to do freak-offs with Diddy for the rest of her life. Like, this is what she wanted for the rest of her life. Now, with all disclosure, full disclosure, let's not forget that this individual had a drug problem. And when this individual was probably doing these sexes, there's a good chance that they was high on some kind of drug. And we're not talking about weed, by the way. And we're not even talking about cocaine, by the way. We're talking about pharmaceuticals, I'm assuming, in many of these cases, because they're talking about football side, they're talking about pills and shit. You understand what I'm saying? So we're talking about drugs that was created by scientists. We're not talking about drugs that was created by some dude with a pot and a stove. We're talking about shit that came out of beakers. Just so we can be clear, we're talking about real drugs. So let's keep into perspective that we're talking about somebody that was doing real drugs. So them not necessarily being in their right state of mind when they're making any of these texts, whether it's the texts that are beneficial to the defense or whether it's the texts that's beneficial to the prosecution. What we have to understand is that this individual had a real drug problem, and they would take drugs that would help keep them up for days and days on end, apparently. At least that was Jane Doe's case. I wasn't here during Cassie's testimony. I'm just assuming at this point that it was a similar state. They also had texts about how she loved freak-offs. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Then we go to lunch. We come back from lunch, and then they show messages of Cassie not only wanting to do freak-offs, but also saying that she wanted him to do them with her and another female. So Cassie was also allegedly recruiting other women, or wanted to recruit other women. Allegedly. This is all allegation. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. This is what the text messages is saying. I don't even know if we're gonna say it's allegedly at this point. This is what she was saying. Some of the texts also said that Cassie was asking about free-offs without Diddy even prompting them. She was just herself saying she wanted free-offs to happen without no one prompting anybody. She was just like, Diddy, I want to do some free-offs. Like, so that was going on. There was also, she was repeatedly asking him, without him even responding to some of these questions, she would repeatedly say, Diddy, she wanted to do free-offs. He wasn't even responding back to her. And then there's another point where Diddy had sent her the text saying that he said to her, let's stop. And she says she doesn't want to stop. And she is, but she did say that she was concerned doing the free-offs without protection. She did want to use protection when they did the free-offs. But there was texts where Diddy was saying that let's stop doing the free-offs. But Cassie was saying she didn't want to stop. Like I told you before, there was a text saying that she said she wanted to do them forever. But once again, like these people were on drugs. Diddy also, these people were on drugs. They were drug users. They were addicted to drugs. And if you know anybody that's addicted to drugs, one minute they say one thing and the next minute they say another thing. And in all cases, they mean both things in both instances, just so we can be clear. Morning. Okay? And in both cases, they mean everything. When they said they didn't want to do it, they meant it. When they said that they did want to do it, they meant it. These are people that got drug problems, just so we can be clear. A lot of us is from the hood. We know people that got drug problems. We know them. All right? One minute they want to give you the world. The next minute they want to take the world from you. They like Dio. That was a JoJo Bizarre Adventure reference. For my anime fans out there. Anyway. Cassie also she said she wanted to do like role play with Diddy, where Diddy like picks her up in the bar. I don't like spitting game in front of people, so I don't know how I feel about that. Like I just don't like doing that. Like I like being like my best self, only to the person. I don't like doing it in front of everybody. I don't know why I'm like that. I'm just like that. Anyway, there were more messages that were not given to the agent apparently. And they were Cassie talking about how hot her pussy was from all of the sex. So she was sending him messages talking about that. And she was also saying, Cassie was saying, sending messages about how she wants to do free-offs really badly. So these are the messages that Cassie was sending. These are literally the messages. These aren't allegedly. These are the messages that she was sending. Also, there was no police report about Diddy getting arrested in the situation involving Cassie when she got injured, and she said that she should have sued. But Diddy did mention that he might get arrested in one of the texts, and had said that the police were there after a physical incident, just so we can be clear. I need a minute. I want to look over my notes for one more minute. We might come right back for another live, but I need to look over my notes for a minute, and then we might come right back. But I love all of y'all. Everybody have a blessed day, and come right back for the next live.